how you use them.
T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Biz Doc Podcast, where intelligence is not artificial because it's coming out of stats. Stats are real, and we're bringing them to you. Today, we got a couple things going on. The first thing we have going on is we're going to take you through really what's happening with AI and how it's progressing. It will shock you the progress that it's making because the massive language models and the massive data sets are able to use. You're going to be amazed how fast it's learning and getting better. And then the second thing, thank you for the suggestion. We're going to go through a quick overview of Netflix. Everybody said, wow, Netflix just had a big earnings report. What's going on with that? They said they're not going to talk about subscribers. I'm going to take you in a quick and short case study on Netflix so you can throw your friends and explain to them exactly what's going on. But first, let's go to the AI analysis. This chart coming up comes to us from Stanford University AI Index report. And what they're asking is, if you took a human baseline of like a really smart person and took that baseline and took a look at all the forms and all the things that AI is doing, how close is it coming to humans? Well, if you look at the top of this chart, image classification, it's been above humans since 2016. So it can classify images better and faster, just a little bit, like 102% than a typical human. Then the next thing that has come up was medium level reading comprehension. Like, could it understand basic articles? And it crossed humans in 2019, right before COVID, like 5 years ago. But then visual reasoning, there's a couple things that have happened here. That one came up and it passed humans. That's the blue line at the top in 2021. But now you get to a few things that are starting to get, some people say scary, some people say impressive. The light blue line, visual common sense reasoning, it is now crossed 95% as effective as a human. And multitask language understanding of what's going on, like compounding, instruction sets into a complex paragraph, understanding all that, it is, end of last year, reached 100% of human capability, and competition level math, it is crossed 90%. So it says that the AI models and the language sets that they're used to create the AI are improving every year. So the question for us is, now you can create tool sets. You take all those things, so now you have AI able to do things as good as a really smart human, and you've got a tool that could be used in business or some function to be as good as an assistant. That's what it means, which is really amazing. So we're going to keep tracking this, but many people were asking about AI, how is it getting better? And so BizDoc dug into some research and found that for you, and I think it's pretty impressive. You look at all those different types and uses of AI, and they're all up at, or photographic classification. 5 years ago, it was doing that better than a human, but now you look at the far more complex things where it's right at a really smart human baseline or slightly above. Very impressive stuff. Pretty soon, you'll be able to pay for an AI assistant like a SaaS software product. Yes, you will. And now we're going to go into, from AI into creative. And that is the world of Netflix. And I'm going to take you on a quick case study and what's going on. What were the headlights all about? Headlights, headlines. We'll look at those too. First, I'm going to take my vault. Unlock your brain. I got a cucumber mint today. Go to Amazon, check them out. Black cherry, cucumber mint, watermelon. I think you'll like it. No sugar, no caffeine. Let's go unlock your brain with the Netflix case study. All right, we found the board. Welcome to Studio B. I'll put the vault down there. No sugar, no caffeine, unlock your brain. Now let's see if we can unlock Netflix. So that's what we're talking about. And this was a request from you. A lot of people are saying, boy, I thought the streaming wars were impacting Netflix and Disney and Hulu and more. What's going on with that? And Netflix stock seems to be making a comeback. How does this all factor together? Great questions. Let's answer it now. So Netflix has been in the headlines lately. We all know who Netflix is. And recently they raised prices. And a year ago, coming out of COVID, you had to tell all your friends, hey man, you can't use my password anymore. And so they changed all that. But what is going on? So we're going to talk about the headlines that are recent. Then we're going to talk about quick history, like I just mentioned a little bit of that. And then we're going to go what it means right now and where Netflix is headed. So check this out. We got some headlines this week as we're sitting here toward the end of April 2024, but it doesn't matter when you're watching this because you can follow right along with what's going on with Netflix and what it could mean for your business and how we decode all that. So first of all, big thing, Netflix blows past earnings estimates as subscribers jump 16%. Looks like good news, right? Then another one, Netflix forces Wall Street at gunpoint to focus on profit and revenue with decision to stop reporting subscriber numbers in 2025. Uh-oh. So sometime in 2025, we're only going to talk profits, not this. Forces Wall Street. You don't normally force Wall Street, you kind of respond to it. But anyway, then the next headline, Netflix to stop reporting subscriber tally as streaming wars cool. So that's Reuters, and that sounds like a little bit of bad news. So we go from Netflix blows past earnings estimates to Netflix to stop reporting subscriber tally. So there's a mix in here depending on the position of these business publications calling out the headline. What's behind the scenes? Let's go take a look. First of all, when we take a look recently at what's going on with the market and points of impact behind it. First of all, the earnings per share was $5.28 versus $4.52 expected. Okay, that's over almost a buck, a little under a buck. That's pretty good to beat earnings by a buck. Then revenue was $9.37 billion versus $9.28. Well, that's another, $7 billion in revenue. $700 million in revenue. That's not too shabby. And then total membership was at 269 versus 264. Those are millions. So they were above range on everything. So everybody's happy and the stock price is up. Well, recently, now why was this up? Why is it up so much? Do they have another Drive to Survive? Do they have another big show? What's going on to make it go? Well, part of this has an illusion and people know it. And here's why. But it's good news. But there still is an illusion behind the good news. The customer, they stopped the password sharing. That's been driving subscribers since they made the announcement. There had been tons of subscribers coming on. It's been a pop. And everybody look at Netflix go, well, really, are they really going or just everybody having to pay the new subscription fee? So it brings revenue up, which is good. Then they made a price increase to $15.49. That drove revenue up. And then they announced an ad-supported tier at $6.99, so they start collecting advertising dollars and let you watch Netflix for $7 a month. Well, that supported revenue. But how many times can you make that trick and then you're just going to ride the subscriber numbers you have? Is it going to increase profit or is your profit going to be relatively flat? Aha! Maybe that's one of the things that the market was looking at. So let's go take a look. We're going to go to quarterly revenue first. Quarterly revenue, as you can see here on this chart, and I'll describe it for those of you that are watching, listening on Spotify, listening to the audio version, working out in the morning. Good for you, you're healthier than the rest of us. So as you can see, going back to 2011, there's a steady ramp that comes on revenue, and we have a little drop down coming out of COVID. You can see it got a little steeper going into COVID. What do? You told me I had to stay home. So what do? I watch movies. Well, then after COVID, we all went back to work, all together now. Aww. And the revenue goes down a bit. Yay. But then they said, no more sharing passwords. Aww. And revenue goes back up because they're adding a bunch of subscribers and those people are paying. So you can see that there. But then this goes through the end of 2023 on the chart. And then I'm adding a blue bullet right up above there, $9.37 billion for Q1. And you can see that is very much ahead of the sub $9 billion number for Q4 2023. So it's like a $400 million difference in revenue. That's what I said, $400 million in one quarter. So that's a pretty tasty looking chart, as you would expect. Up since 2011. You have a little bit of a spike there, 2019, when we were all told to go home and watch Netflix and be locked in. Then it drops as we go back to work, and then it pops back up as we can't share passwords anymore and everybody's got to pay for their own subscription. Well, what about those subscriptions? Let's go take a look. Well, guess what? No surprise here that the ramp follows Netflix almost identically, and why wouldn't it? But it gets much more steeper here when you get down to Q4 of 2022 going up, because two things happen. We told people that they couldn't share passwords, and we raised the price for everybody. And so you can see, the subscribers and everything, the impact that those things had on revenue. And now on this chart, subscribers, and boom, I'll put a red dot at the end of this chart that goes up, flattens coming out of COVID, goes up again when they tell people they can't share their passwords. This, the subscriber chart now, and then up above that, 269 million, that shouldn't have a dollar sign, 269 million subscribers, Q1 2024. Boom. So why was it that everybody was happy, but then was unhappy after hours? So the Netflix went up the stock during the day, and then when it was after hours, the stock dropped a bit. So here we go. Here's a stock chart. The stock chart, as you can see, 2020, 2021, it was hanging just below 400, goes just over 400 as we come out of COVID, and we hit a real peak in 2022 because we were locked inside and we were just about time to get out. So all through 2021, the stock is going up. 2022 in the spring, we go back outside and it drops like a rock back down to $200 a share. That's because subscriber growth was perceived to be dropping along with revenue. But then they raise the price and they tell you can't share passwords. And you can see the stock chart after dropping to 200 in early 2022, starts going up, 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 crosses 300 in mid 23, a little bit of a dip in third quarter, but then goes up, 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 crosses 400, up, 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 and now 600. So from late 2023 to where we are now, it goes from 400 to 600, and it was $611 on April 18th, just a day ago. However, what then happened after hours, it dropped about 4 or 5%. And that was because people were upset. The market was upset, saying if you're not going to talk about subscriber numbers, you're only going to talk about profit. We measure you with that. But nonetheless, they also said that the full year growth rate will only be like 13 to 15% on revenue and profit, but that was after 16% growth here in Q1. So everybody's going, wait, you're doing 16% growth in Q1, and you only say it's going to be 13 to 15 the rest of the year, so your growth is going to be lower in all those other quarters, and you're not going to talk about subscriber numbers anymore starting in 2025. Wait. So the market gets a little fussy, and right after a good earnings report and stock going up, it drops after hours last night, stabilizing today. So what happened and what's next? Here's what happened. They changed the rules, which means you're also changing the reaction on Wall Street. Wall Street measures cable companies, mobile phone companies, and Netflix and streamers by subscribers. They want to know how many subscribers you have. They want to know ARPU, ARPU, average revenue per user. You can't do ARPU unless you give them the revenue and the users, and they divide the two to get the average per person, per subscriber. Wall Street wants that. That's how they measure subscriber-based businesses. And now Netflix is trying to change that and say, you will measure us other ways. And Wall Street was a little bit fussy after our trading to hear that, because subscribers is a very important KPI. And that's how Wall Street keeps score. So Netflix is saying, I don't want you to keep score anymore. Wall Street is saying, wait a minute, are you telling us that after you get all those new subscribers where people stop sharing passwords, that maybe your subscriber growth is soft? Is that what you're telling me? Well, of course, that's what Netflix is saying. We don't know for sure, but how can any reasonable analyst or the BizDoc conclude anything else? Then, profit's important, but the industry expects those subscriber counts, and so that's what you're going to get. Then they said the focus will be revenue, operating margin, cash flow, and time spent on Netflix. Wait a minute, time spent on Netflix? Wait a minute, does that sound to you like what Facebook used to say, the amount of time spent on Facebook? You bet. They're trying to get that to be the measure. Why? Well, they also have the low tier, and the low tier at $6.99, the longer you watch, the more ads you see. So I think there's a play here to move in that direction. So nonetheless, they're trying to change the rules, and we're going to see how Wall Street reacts to it. They only have two more earnings reports this year. Then we roll into next year, and guess what? They're not going to be talking about subscriber counts. So they may be back to talking about subscriber counts. I don't know if Wall Street's going to take to this long term. Have a subscriber-based business, not talk about subscriber counts. Now, what got you here won't get you there, Netflix. So what are they doing going forward? Obviously, you can only do the can't share your password trick more than once, and you've raised prices already relatively recently. And so now they're whispering about live sports, but they don't want to call it live sports. They want to call it entertainment. Remember, YouTube TV signed NFL Sunday Ticket away from DirecTV, and DirecTV is a satellite service that exists in what's left of AT&T. Now then, they also said that WWE, it's entertainment, not live sports. Remember, they signed a $5 billion deal for 10 years with a trigger out after 10 years. So that after 5 years. So halfway through, if it's not going well, they can bail. Nonetheless, that looks like a sports deal to a lot of people. They say, no, WWE is more like entertainment, but it's more like live sports. It's live. You don't fast forward through ads. That's why live sports gets such big dollars, because advertisers crave it. The dedication to it, and you can't fast forward through it, all makes it a great destination for people when you want to make sure they watch the ads. Then, also in sports, there's a thing called Head and Shoulders, where they put programming on the shoulders of sports. Well, Drive to Survive, that's the Formula One reality series where people found out about Formula One who didn't even have an interest in racing. That was a hit. Are they going to do more of that? Well, a little whisper says that that's successful. Maybe they will. And then NBA talks stalled just this week for their renewal with major broadcasters about how they're going to cut it up, or who's going to pay the $9 billion for, the NBA. Who knows? But now Netflix is an obvious bidder in the middle. Are they going to bid? But they've certainly paid a lot of money, multi-billion dollars, for things like WWE. So they're whispering it's entertainment. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Last year said they won't. But guess what? Netflix may be a player there, because they're going to need something to drive the stock price and to drive the number of minutes that you and I spend watching Netflix. So what's the lesson for us? That's where Netflix is going. Is there a lesson for us? Yes. Be careful about changing your focus on KPIs. You're driving your company, your people, your sales, your organization through KPIs. Be careful about changing your focus. Then know your customer and what they like. Know what they like. And Netflix knows that they like certain types of programming. They're trying to deliver it to them, and they understand what they need to deliver, and they just need to deliver more of it. So will live sports suddenly be Netflix getting into live sports after spending so much time in hit-driven, episodical-driven programming? We'll see. But then what got you here won't get you there. So sometimes, regardless of your company, with your products, you have to add to your product line, add to what's going on, so you can roll forward into the future with freshness and things that your customer, knowing your customer, remember, if you're making beef jerky and suddenly you start making moccasins, it's like, wait a minute, what is that all about? Well, but if you're making beef jerky and then you start introducing smoked cheese, well, now you're in the same realm. You're selling into grocery and distribution. So products can sound different, but actually be complementary to each other. So what got you here may not get you there. Just like Netflix, complementary products may work, disparate products may not. And getting into disparate products, like Netflix bidding for live sport, is that something you really want to spend your dollars doing? And lastly, protect your brand identity. Netflix has done a very good job of being Netflix. And if it's going to get far afield from that, maybe that's not such a good idea. But for you and me, when you know what your brand is all about and you know what your customers like, what got you here may not get you there. It may be time to freshen, version, or add complementary products. And those are just some of the lessons that I think are related, maybe not directly, perfectly to every point of Netflix, but certainly related. But that's what's going on. So as the streaming wars continue and Netflix continues to win in hits lane, and we'll wait to see what happens with Hulu and YouTube TV and all the other competitors that are in there and the Peacocks of the world and things that are trying to wedge their way in, there is mighty Netflix standing alone, getting $15.50 from you and me or $7 in ads and driving forward. Great earnings report. But now we will find out. Will they be able to change the rules and not talk about subscribers and say, I just want to talk about time on Netflix, revenue, operating margin, and profit? We'll see if the market will let them do that. We'll know in a couple earnings reports, will we? All right, I'm going to take my vault, walk back to studio, and wrap up. All right. I hope you enjoyed that, understanding more about what's happening with Netflix, the changes they're making, and where they're going. Powerful companies, strong companies adapt, and they are certainly adapting, but we'll see where they go tomorrow. If you like that case study, here's a couple from the BizDoc archive that I think you may like as well. And until next time, as I like to say, I'm Tom Ellsworth, the BizDoc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.